From a warehouse in Van Nuys, it's Friend in High Places. And now, here's your host, Matt Friend.
I'm so excited. It's a new episode of Friend in High Places. This is one of my favorite comedians. I'm a huge fan. I've been a huge fan. He's quite British himself. I think we could maybe be related. It's Jack Whitehall on Friend in High Places. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you.
I'm very excited to be talking to you.
I feel like I'm more enthusiasm to see you.
But I'm British. I'm reserved, actually.
But it's weird because when you're stand-up, you are so not reserved.
Yeah.
So is that weird? Like,
yeah,
do people
that's
assume
like my
you're
outlet.
like...
Yeah, but that's the slight problem. I've created a horrendous persona to then have to maintain in real life because I'm very energetic and sort of friendly and over the top on stage. Then in real life, just a letdown.
I was gonna ask how your dating advice, because you're the mother of your child is a supermodel.
She's gorgeous.
You have an amazing history, and I'm like, how are you doing this? And now I can see it's like you have a suave James Bond thing going on here. So what's your dating advice? How do I get to be Jack Whitehall?
I would say don't do impressions of your dates. That women never respond particularly well to that.
Yeah, that's probably good
And keep
advice.
them out of your material for as long as possible. That was the key with Roxy, is that I didn't talk about her on stage for a long time until she was in and she was trapped. And now she's the subject matter of every single joke.
Did she want you to ever bring her up on stage?
No, she was mortified when I first did. And actually, the first time that I met her, I was touring a show, and I was touring a show that was all about a breakup and was talking about my ex-girlfriend, which was quite weird. She then came to see that and saw me on stage, and then we started dating. And then I didn't do stand-up for maybe like 2 years. And then when I did my next show, she was the butt of all of the jokes.
Wow.
But also, I've learnt the key, if you're in a relationship with someone and you are planning to do material on them, is to go and try out the material first and make sure that it works 100% before you ask permission. Because I've made that mistake as well of like coming cap in hand and saying, oh, I've got this bit that I want to do about you, and her being really annoyed, and then you go on and you do it and it gets nothing. You're like, that is a complete waste of an argument. I should have made sure that this was funny first.
Has that ever helped you in terms of getting a girl, like doing a bit about her, and then she progresses where she likes you more because you talked about her on stage?
I don't know. I always think it's like with any other kind of art form, using art form very loosely.
Yes, very loose.
You write a song about a girl that's really flattering, and you know that's a great way to sort of woo someone. But saying I've written a joke at your expense, it doesn't really work the same. We watched the Ed Sheeran documentary where he talks about his wife and how inspiring she was, and how, you know, she was his muse, and he wrote this amazing song about how wonderful she was, and she's there like crying, and I'm watching with Roxy. She was like, I want to be married to Ed Sheeran.
That's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
I feel like she wants to be married to Ed Sheeran, but she's married to you.
She's married to me, and just going like ragging her out on stage in front of strangers.
Oh my God! Wow. One of my favorite parts about you is you're such a physical comedian. And there's different types of stand-up, as you know, better than anybody. Like, there's people who sit on a stool or a little more, like, monotone. But I love how you use the stage.
Yeah.
You use your body and your voice.
Yeah.
Were you always drawn to, like, physical comedians?
Yeah, I love physical comedians. And when I was, like, a kid, my heroes were sort of Rowan Atkinson and John Cleese and people like that. And I loved, you know, I loved sketch comedy and comedy in the theatre. And so I'd always, like, admired that sort of theatricality.
Mm-hmm.
But weirdly, when I first started doing stand-up, I tried out a few personas first before I sort of settled on the version.
Wouldn't know what that's like.
Yeah, but I had some pretty big swings. Like I went on stage in like a parka, you know, like the
I was about to say a burqa.
The burqa. Yeah, that was very short-lived. That one.
Okay.
I wore like a parka, like one of Oasis, and I did it really monotone. and just did like deadpan one-liners and had no energy at all, and did that for like 6 months because I think I'd seen like Jack D or Stuart Lee and thought, oh yeah, that's the way to do stand-up.
Well, how old were you when that was happening?
I was like 18, 19.
Because there's no way to know what to do when you first go on a stage. Like, you
No.
have to just figure it out and try things.
Yeah.
At what point did you become this? Like, was there a moment when it clicked for you that this is kind of the persona I am, this feels right on stage, audiences are getting it, this is who I am?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of drifted into it a bit because then I went from the sort of deadpan, monotone serial killer one-liners to again like
Serial killer.
Well, I was just like it was
Jimmy
really
Carr,
angry.
kind of.
Yeah, it was quite Jimmy Carr.
Yes.
but even darker and sort of. It felt like you could sort of hide behind it as well because
Okay.
it was like I had disdain for the audience. So if they weren't laughing at my jokes, it sort of didn't. It never felt as needy. And I guess with what I do, it feels so needy. Like love me, laugh, laugh. And if they're not laughing, then it's really tragic and hard to go home at the end of the show. And by sort of creating this like facade, it made it a lot easier. But then I became a little bit more, expressionful and. Was a bit more physical, but I
Yes.
still had a slight hangover in the voice. I wasn't quite comfortable talking in my own voice yet
Okay.
because I was worried that if I went on and sounded, all posh and had all of these clipped tones, then the audience would hate me. So I affected a sort of East End, like sort of sub Russell Brand accent, and I did all of my jokes like that. And I actually first started appearing on TV whilst I was still doing that. So there's clips of me when I'm first presenting on television and I'm talking this ridiculous estuary accent and I sound ridiculous.
I was a Def Jam comedian when I was younger. So that's amazing. No, because, well, it's safe to say that you didn't grow up poor necessarily.
No,
so like,
that's a diplomatic way of putting it.
so no, but like, because you had a great family, you
Yeah.
seem like just a happy person.
Yeah.
Did you feel that might hurt your comedy? Because I kind of relate to you a bit in that, like, I had a really great upbringing. I have close friends, and there's this idea in comedy of like a tragic clown.
Yeah.
Like, people are like, if you weren't hurt as a kid necessarily, then you're not gonna be able to be funny. But I don't know what happened as a kid, but you seem to be, you're one of the best comedians on the planet. And so, how did your upbringing affect?
Burying it very deep.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, pretty absent of much sort of struggle to lean into, I would say. So yeah, I guess I just sort of decided I would
you to take out the trash.
Yes, he would sometimes.
Yeah.
I love it when you do your Charles.
I'm sorry.
It just makes me feel like I'm in his presence.
Oh, thank you.
Going
back to you.
I don't know. I've forgotten the question. What was the question?
No, just how did your upbringing, because you had a great upbringing, impact your comedy at all? Because there's the idea of like, you have to struggle if you want to make it as a comedian, but you seem to have a lot of positivity in your life. So did that affect your comedy at all?
Yeah, I mean, I because I was sort of an anecdotal comedian as well, I would always just try and find, stories that I could tell and
Yes.
stuff that was, there was a little bit of stuff that was a bit more like introspective, but on the whole, there wasn't a huge amount to mine. So it was either, outrageous things my dad said or minor scandals that I've been embroiled in that felt like were fertile ground for.
That's interesting, because you have so much
Teens.
material to pick from with your family
Yeah.
and everything.
My first Edinburgh show was about getting busted by the News of the World doing drugs.
Yes, it was Nearly Rebellious.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was great. Suddenly I had something to talk about, even though at the time it was like not an ideal situation
Yes.
to go through as a young man, but I was at like a music festival and got in some trouble and then was in newspapers, and suddenly it was like, it was embroiled in some ridiculous scandal, and then I was like, oh, this is great. This is something that I can talk about, and I can go on
you
stage.
said, I'm going to create problems in my life for material.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I had such a great upbringing, I'm going to shoot someone and then I'll get
shot
material.
someone and buried a body, and now I have an Edinburgh show.
Yeah. Now, how long was that show?
It was an hour.
The first hour.
Yeah,
okay.
you need
the hour.
to like,
It wasn't 10 minutes.
elongate
Yes.
over the course of an hour. One story will do. But yeah, you do find you just burn through, because also you're a young man.
Yes.
I was a young man when I started, and you like burn through every single anecdote or every single interesting thing that's possibly happened to you in your life. And then you're like, shit, what do I talk about
And
now?
at this stage, like, what has happened to me in my life?
Yeah, I know.
26. It's
Yeah.
like, was that a struggle early on?
Well, yeah, I mean, I look at like other comedians, sort of my contemporaries, you know, a lot of whom started it a lot later and they were sort of in their 40s and 50s. So by the time they sort of hit big, they just had like this wealth of material and they'd be going for like decades, some
Yeah.
of them. And so they'd have this like, you know, back catalogue of amazing routines and stories.
I'm
and
sorry, I'm getting
lives.
lost in your eyes. This is, guys, I'm so sorry. This is wild. To sit here with Jack Whitehall, because a lot of comedians, let's face it, are physically repugnant. But you look fantastic. I mean, you're
thank you.
clean, not to be weird, but job well done. I mean, continue.
Thank you very much.
You look great. Yeah. This is brought to you by Roxy. Okay. Sorry.
So yeah, I had nothing to talk about because
Yeah.
I was like when I started, I was sort of 18 or 19, and then burnt through everything. And then I'm now in my early 30s, and I thought the only option
It's
left
over.
is to have a kid.
Yeah. Now you'll have a lot more material.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. Wow. Did you feel like your kid is already providing you with material?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I hadn't done any. I finished my tour, took some time off to have a baby, did that. Was like I had no inkling or desire to get back up on stage. And then I'm a year in now, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I've got so many things I want to go and
Are you
try
good?
out.
Were you good taking time off, or were you anxious?
Terrible, absolutely terrible.
What was that like?
Like,
Because you seem like you're doing so much stuff.
yeah. Well, I love working, and I love I love being on tour. I love acting. I love writing. So I'm always trying to sort of cram as much as I can into my diary. But yeah, I tried to be strict with myself, and clearly was not strict enough because within 2 weeks I was performing in like Copenhagen or flying off and doing extra tour dates that I'd added and slightly regretted.
Your stand-up on the Tonight Show is one of my favorites. Especially why do you have to pull the blinds down?
Oh yeah.
Like that's like a very Seinfeldy observation. The observation was, why do I have to pull the blinds down when I'm taking off, or up when I'm taking off?
Yeah.
And then the pilot or the flight attendant said, if the plane goes down, you'll be my eye.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Did that actually happen?
Yeah. The pilot's eyes. Yeah.
Because these are like really observations that I feel like anyone could just take, but you've taken them.
Yeah, I like that one as well because every now and again I'll get someone on a plane that will come up to me and be like,
"Is that right?"
Pilot's eyes. Yeah.
Where are you recognized the most?
In England,
in the world, in England, of course.
Much less here.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, yesterday I went and played some soccer.
Okay.
I believe you call it here.
Football.
Football.
Yes.
And I was asked to go and play in this game by a friend of mine, and it ended up being a sort of game where there was a team of Italian like soccer legends, like all of whom I knew from my childhood, like people that have won the Champions League and Serie A, and then a load of Mexican league legends, and they didn't have enough players, so I played with the Mexican team.
Yeah.
And there was all these kids there and people watching
Played
the game,
with the Mexicans?
and they had no idea, like a dog, and they had no idea who I was, so they kept coming up to me thinking I was a Mexican footballer.
I would
and
not
asking
assume
me-
that
No.
from you.
Well, I was in the full kit.
I see.
Which I think, maybe...
Yeah. A Mexican
my
football player who hasn't gotten a lot of sun.
favorite. No.
But you look great.
They kept coming up and asking me for my autograph.
Oh,
And
really?
at the beginning, I was just like, "Oh no, I'm not. I don't actually play." And then by the end, these kids looked so disappointed that I just went with it and started signing their footballs and their boots.
That's
and they were like,
insane.
"Gracias," and I was like, "Yes, thank you."
Isn't that crazy? You're kind of like Hannah Montana then. There's like a double life because you're
Yeah.
saying like you can be a little anonymous in America,
Yeah.
but in England you're like, you can't walk down the sidewalk, probably.
Yeah. It's definitely different when I come here, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh yeah."
Is it humbling or is it
Yeah,
like,
it's humbling.
okay.
I think like the musician Robbie Williams, he's talked about it a lot because he's absolutely stratospheric in the UK, and then he moved to LA because he didn't get as much grief.
Yes.
But he was like, when I first came here, it was utterly infuriating
Because they didn't know who he was.
They didn't know who he was. And he was like, and everyone said, "Oh, you must love that." And he went, "No, I didn't. My ego just couldn't take it." But then it took me like a decade to realize that actually it's the best thing that I could possibly have because I can come here and I don't have to.
You say I'm
The
British
life that I
John
have.
Mulaney. That's
Yeah.
or John Mulaney's American you.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God, that is crazy to have such like recognition, I guess, in one part of the world. I mean, but you're still hugely famous here, but in London, I'd imagine it's so heightened. I mean, you're playing the O2.
Yeah.
How many times have you
actually,
done that?
London, you know what? London less so, because London just no one gives a shit, even
Oh,
no matter
really?
how famous
That's
you are.
nice, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
like New
good city
York.
for that. Like New York, yeah, they've seen 5 famous people that day. They don't want to stop and talk to you. They don't want to stop and talk to anyone. But if you leave London, then people are a little bit more excited, I guess.
How many times have you done the O2?
I think I've done it maybe 8 or
That's
8 or 9
insane.
times.
How many people are in there?
20,000?
That is crazy.
Yeah.
What was your first stadium experience like? I just got to open for Jon Stewart
Oh yeah,
a couple days
amazing.
ago. I'd never done that before, like in arena,
Yeah.
and it was really cool. But what was that like for you the first time you did an arena show?
My first arena show that I ever did, I actually did it in the round as well, which was even more challenging. I did the Wembley Arena and I did it in the round, and then I did a tour of the UK, and it was insane. But the sound is just so, like, you do a joke and there's
Crazy.
like a delay, and
Yeah.
and you had to. It's hard enough like trying to keep anyone engaged in an arena because it's so big and cavernous, and there's people in the nosebleed seats that
Yeah.
it's very hard to engage with. But
that's why you're so good, because you're so physical. Like, you're not just a slam poet. Like, you're
yeah,
like doing some like 10.
Yeah.
Not that slam. I don't have a problem with
Whoa,
slam poetry.
come on.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh, you're gonna get me in the comments now. But yeah.
in
But-
iambic pentameter.
Yes. Very good. But I'd imagine your comedy lends itself well to a bigger environment.
Yeah, and I definitely tried to adapt it a bit so that it was a little bit more, I don't know, like I would utilize the stage
Yes.
a lot more, use some of that sort of theatre training to try and make it a better experience for people in an arena. But I definitely got into a bit of a habit of maybe, I don't know, chucking a bit too much shit at the wall, because I'd always try and have these like gimmicks.
Too much shit at the wall. I love this.
I came in on a Segway for my first show, and then I had like a whole involved like. Yeah, I came in on a Segway through the audience because I was like, they've come to a show in an arena. Like
Yeah.
the last time they were here, they were probably seeing Ariana Grande.
Yes.
And now it can't just be me and a mic. We need to have some razzmatazz.
Yeah.
So I had confetti cannons. I had an ending at the end where I'd done a whole joke about the Lion King and how I was like never got over the fact that Mufasa died. So I did this whole bit at the end where I dressed up as a lion and was pursued out of the arena by
Either you or
puppeteers.
Northwest.
Yeah. What?
Kanye's daughter.
Oh, Kanye's daughter. She's not over that.
I think she was in The Lion King.
Oh, she was in the
There was
Lion
a
King.
controversy.
Okay.
I hear you were better.
I was an amazing Mufasa, and I survived the stampede as well. Happy ending.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I wonder what that would have been like to go to that show, to see Jack Whitehall coming in through.
Yeah, I think they liked it. I never know though, because I always think, oh yeah, that's great, because then there's a little bit, and I've done it every show since then. I did a show where I did a joke about how I never got a part in the school nativity play, and that they'd made up a part for me, and I was the emu. And then I did a whole musical number at the end where the emu was the main part in the nativity, and it had a song and dance, and then I start flying at the end. And then critics come and see it, and they're like, yeah, if you just spent more time writing some better jokes,
Yeah.
we would have
Yeah.
preferred that than
Instead
all
of
of this nonsense at the end.
Yeah.
It's pantomime, essentially.
I think it adds to the form, I feel like.
Yeah.
And Bo Burnham does props, and
I love
stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
I think it's fun, but I mean, I think there probably are some people that are like, yeah, we could have just called this 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And I could have got home to my babysitter sooner than having to watch you
Well, you're
live
still
out your
here.
fantasies.
Yeah. Speaking of fantasies, you auditioned for Harry Potter.
I
You like
did.
that transition?
That was good. That was slick.
Can we thank you?
That was good.
Thank you very much. Can we talk about this? You auditioned for Harry Potter. Jack Whitehall could have been Harry Potter.
Hermione. I auditioned for the role of Hermione.
I say.
Um,
I say.
no, I was.
I'm sure J.K. Rowling would have loved that. Yeah, if anything J.K. Rowling likes, it's changing up the gender roles. I'm sorry, she's a friend.
Dear friend.
Yes.
Yeah, I auditioned for Harry Potter. I was at school, and there was like an open casting
Okay.
where they sent in a casting director's assistant to audition a load of kids. And I told my dad, who was a producer,
Michael.
Michael. And Michael was like, oh, that's ridiculous. No one's ever been cast in one of those. I'll get you in front of the casting director. So it was like pure nepotism. Got me
Yep.
out of school, took me down to London, put me in front of the casting director. I hadn't read the book. So then she started asking me a load of questions about the book, and I was sort of just waffling on about like orcs and shit, and totally came undone and fluffed the audition. went back to school. My father was furious. And then from the open audition at my school, Emma Watson got cast. So she went through the proper
Oh my God.
process, and she had a life-changing role of a lifetime.
It's crazy because, I mean, Daniel Radcliffe would have been doing shows on a Segway. Had
in the parallel.
you gotten that role.
And dressing up as Mufasa.
Yeah. Oh my God. Wow. I wonder what this would go for at an auction to be the chair that Jack Whitehall is just lightly rubbing. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's you lost roles though to Robert Pattinson in high school.
Yeah.
Right?
High school.
Did that piss you off?
Yeah, it did. Again, when we were talking about earlier that I had no real kind of trauma in my life.
Yes.
Or anything to sort of...
Didn't get Harry Potter, lost roles to Robert Pattinson.
These were the things that I could get
good
annoyed
trauma.
about.
Yeah.
These
Very
are the
good.
things, you know. That,
Totally relatable.
This is, yeah, exactly. When you're desperate,
Yeah.
you're, you know, any port in a storm. And these were the things that I decided that I would have sort of confected rage about on stage, is the fact that Robert Pattinson was at my school and got all the best parts.
Damn
that man.
One of my favorite videos on YouTube, it's you, Harry Styles, and Lizzo.
Yeah. At the Brit Awards. Yeah.
How, when you're next to Harry Styles, like, how do you bring that out of someone, like the silly, goofy side? Because you're a master at it.
Yeah, I mean, he was
especially
pretty
in an award show.
Well, he's pretty game, and you've hosted award shows. It's like you've got to like try and find the people that you know you're going to get something back from, and the people that are because some people are there and just so fucking miserable.
Yeah,
and I found
so
with the Brits,
miserable.
it's so frustrating.
Miserable
because you're and you're like. You're hung out to dry if you're then having to interact with someone that's not like willing to sort of play along or send themselves up a little bit. So I'd make sure at each of those award shows that I'd work out who were the people that would be willing to have fun. And Harry was always one of them, and he was always.
And you're friends with Harry Styles, right?
Yeah. And he would appear in all of the sketches, and he was happy for me to sort of make jokes at his expense. And then there were other people that were a little bit more precious, and you'd have to kind of avoid them. I used to actually, so the first time I did it, the first year I hosted it, because it's like our version of the Grammys.
Yes.
So it has all of the music industry there, and you do a rehearsal in the afternoon, and they have all of the pictures at the tables of the people where they're going to be sat. And also all of the AR people from all of the record labels are in the room. So I went up and I did my rehearsal, and I did all of the jokes, did all of my monologue jokes. And then afterwards, it was like people banging down my door, coming in and complaining, and this person from this person's label says that I can't say this and I can't do that about this person.
And this is how many hours before the show?
Oh, this is like 45 minutes before I go on, and it's live as well. So it's live television, and I've got this script, and I'm having to like.
Are you freaking out?
Yeah, I was freaking out, and it was the first time I'd done it as well, because I didn't necessarily want to like upset everyone or piss people off, but equally like I wanted to make sure that I was funny, so I didn't want all of my punchlines like taken away with an hour to go. And so managed to navigate way through it, got a couple of things through, and then the next year that I did it, in the rehearsal, I was just like, I'm not having that happen again. I will just do a fake script.
Okay.
So we created a whole fake monologue.
Oh my
where
God.
It would allow all of the cameras to go to the right place for each of the jokes. But then there was no punchline. So I'd say, and we got Harry Styles here, who's a great guy, really talented. It's so nice to see him here. He's so lovely and his hair is brilliant. And we've also got Lizzo, who I've heard is a really lovely person, and her dress looks so nice this evening. And all of the producers in the gallery that didn't know are like, it's not as funny as he was last year. He's really playing it safe. And then no one complained, and then I went out on the night live, and no one can say anything because it's live, so you just do all of the jokes. It's great.
Were they upset after?
No, because ultimately all they care about is that their client is going to like be annoyed or be pissed off, and then they're going to be to blame. And most of the people can take a joke, and they're not going to go, "Oh my God, he said this about me." So I didn't really
except for Lizzo's backup dancers. Yes.
So yeah, it was fine, and people are way less fragile than you think.
Were the producers or anyone upset at you for doing that?
No, because the one producer that sort of mattered had sort of given me the idea.
Yeah. Ben Winston?
No, but Ben Winston would be very good. Ben Winston would just be operating the room and making sure that everyone's all right.
Oh my God, that is a crazy story.
Yeah.
Because hosting is you're so amazing at it. I've watched you, and I try to emulate what you do a bit. because you have it's stand up is different from hosting.
Yeah.
And everybody assumes that if you're a comedian, you can host, but like to host, you really have to bring a lot of energy and tee the people up and like make the energy in the room just come up entirely.
Yeah. And also, I think like burying jokes in compliments is quite good because people
Yes,
don't realize they've been
absolutely.
insulted until it's too late, and they think they think you're being nice to them, and there's a bit of an art to that.
Unless you're Ricky Gervais.
Yeah, unless you're Ricky Gervais.
Oh,
just
Mel
go for
Gibson in the
scorcher.
front row. I don't care. It's my last time. I don't care.
I'd love to get to that point. I don't feel like
Well, you just say
you or I
care.
are at that level of our careers yet.
You're way farther than I am.
No, but we still,
I think you're at the
care
level.
too much.
I don't think you need to.
No, I don't know. It would be great at some point to get to that point that Ricky got to where he just thought, fuck it. and
Would
then
you
scorched
host like a Golden Globes or one of the American?
Yeah, I think I probably would. I mean, I do. I like it. I mean, I hosted a lot of things and did it for a while. I did it, a couple a year and got into a little bit of a rut.
Yep.
Because it's so much time and energy for like one show and then it's done.
Yeah.
And I found that quite frustrating. I did a few that were also quite like thankless tasks.
So thankless. It's the perfect word to describe it.
Yeah. I used to do the Fashion Awards in London, which was the most brutal gig you could possibly have as a comedian. In fact, since I did it, they've never had a comedian since. It's just like they just play it straight. But for 5 years, the committee that organised it went, we want it to be funnier because it's very dry and it's very like, it just doesn't have any kind of energy or humour, and we just think it would be great for you to sort of shake things up a bit. And I went and I did it, and it was like,
that's crazy.
The front row was Anna Wintour,
yeah.
Karl Lagerfeld.
Oh, that's a funny audience.
Yeah. All the notes on my script were like, will Anna Wintour and Karl Lagerfeld find this funny? I was like, if that's the barometer, then...
Oh my God.
You
killed Karl Lagerfeld with your jokes.
I did.
You literally killed him.
He couldn't.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
How do you, because I'm putting myself in these weird situations. Like I hosted the NHL awards, like National Hockey League.
Yeah.
And then I performed at like the correspondence dinner.
Yeah.
And these are very difficult rooms of people.
Yeah.
So when you're knowing you're going to be in an environment like that, do you change anything, or are you just like, I'm going to just do me?
I don't know. I guess you just sort of have to work out like what you can get away with and how much comedy they're actually willing to consume, because often it's very little. So
do you find it's easier as audiences know you? Like when you're starting out, they really don't know what's going to happen. But as if, let's say, Jack Whitehall is booked to host the next fashion thing, people know it's superstar comedian Jack Whitehall. That might help or hurt.
Yeah, I think definitely it helps to an extent. But then the problem with that is that it's an international audience, and it was a lot of people that probably didn't know much about the comedy industry and probably had no idea who I was.
Yeah,
and may have thought that I was just a sort of, I don't know, just someone that was slightly overzealous and insulting their very, very important industry.
Do you think the profits you made off of your father will be deducted from your inheritance?
I don't know. I mean, he spent his whole life telling me that my school fees are coming off my inheritance. I don't know if there's any inheritance left. He's been living the fast life since he
really
became moderately famous in his late 70s. He's making the most of this last chapter.
Really?
Yeah. Guy's on holiday every fucking 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, we'll turn up to the opening of an envelope.
I'm performing in London for the first time in a couple months. Is there any advice you have, British audience?
Oh,
Leicester Square Theatre. I'm performing.
Leicester Square Theatre.
How do I handle?
Well, you've got to get how good are you on regional British accents?
I'm trying to figure it out. We were doing my King Charles.
Yeah.
I like these crown voices. I like the mind the gap between the train and the platform. I like the deep British one.
We don't have Mind the Gap anymore.
Oh, you don't have that?
No, he's gone.
What? Oh, you don't?
We got rid of the gap.
What do you do then?
Well, people just fall to
They
their
just
death.
fall to the ground. So what do I do? How do I handle a British crowd?
You know what? I think I always find regional accents absolutely kill. So you just gotta brush up on those. You gotta have a good Geordie, which is a hard one to master, but you are a master, and I've no doubt that you will nail that. Scouse, can you do a Scouse accent yet?
Nope.
The trick to the Scouse accent is you gotta
That's not a real thing. Yeah,
What?
I'm kidding.
No.
Can you do a blouse? Can you do yeah.
What's there's a saying you gotta say fried chicken and a can of Coke.
Holy shit.
And it's all very
They're not
like
having
that.
sex, those people, are they?
Oh, they have a lot of sex.
Okay.
A lot of sex.
Highly
in
chicken
Liverpool.
and a can of Coke.
Coke.
Okay. Okay. I could say I was one of Philip Schofield's kids.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's a reference
kill.
that kills here.
Yeah.
In America, Philip Schofield. Wow. Okay, so what's the number one? I'm headlining in England. What's the number one piece of advice to handle a British audience? Jack Whitehall.
The number one piece of advice handling a British audience. I mean, this sounds bad, but I would say if you've not performed in the UK before, like, don't be upset by how apathetic the audience is. Because I have the reverse. When I come to America, I'm like, oh my God, they're so appreciative and they're so excited that I'm here. And they're applauding a lot and they're applauding before I've even come out. And then when I leave, there's lots of laughter. And in England, you just really have to earn their appreciation.
Earn their appreciation.
Yeah, it almost will feel like they're disinterested.
Great.
Even if you're killing
I'm
and you're
so
crushing
excited.
it, you'll be like, wow, it's like getting blood out of a stone.
Great. Leicester Square Theatre getting blood out of a stone. That's going to be a really fun show. England's biggest comedian just sat here on my podcast and told me that my show in England is going to be like getting blood out of a stone. That's great.
But when you get the blood out of the stone, you'll appreciate, you'll feel so rewarded. Because, we just take a little bit of time.
Yeah, that's good. No, it's really good input. No, thank you. I'm going to kill it and have some tiered claridges. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to be British. It's terrible. Have you met King Charles?
I have, yeah.
You've met King Charles?
Yeah.
What's it like to be with King Charles?
King Charles.
What is
King
King
Charles?
Charles?
The Royal Variety Show. You'd be great on the Royal Variety Show.
Royal Variety
You're
Show?
Charles.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. They should book you on the Royal Variety Show. You'd absolutely crush.
Really?
Yeah, members of the royal family attend it each year. That's where I met Charles.
God.
And you perform in front of, royalty.
What? You've done this?
Yeah, I did it.
They call the Royal Variety Show.
Yeah.
Where you perform in front of the royal family.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, it's quite a strange gig.
Yeah, that's way weirder than the fashion one.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird because everyone is just watching them to see if they've laughed, and if they've laughed, they feel comfortable to laugh. But I've also performed for Charles at his house, in front of all of his staff.
You performed for King Charles at his home?
At his home. It was Kensington Palace when he was still living there, and he asked me to come and do his Christmas party, and it was me performing for him, Camilla, and then 30 of their staff, all of the butlers and
comedians
maids.
Do corporate events. This is a different level.
Unpaid corporate events.
Unpaid corporate. So what? You're just doing jokes and he's laughing, or?
He was laughing at some of it.
Okay, let's role play it. Okay, Buckingham, here we go. It's one of my favourite comics from London. It's Mr. Jack Whitehall.
He was also sat in it was like a throne. It had
sausage
a high
fingers.
back chair, and his sausage fingers. I did not mention the sausage fingers.
Yeah. He was in a throne?
He was in a throne. He was
What?
sat in a throne, yeah.
Wait, so you're performing for King Charles at Buckingham Palace, and he's in a throne, and you're literally a jester.
At the front. I was the court jester.
Did you say that?
Yeah.
Did he laugh?
Yeah, he did. He has a pretty good sense of humor.
That's crazy.
And do you know what he said to me afterwards? He said, "Oh, you were a lot better than the contortionist that we had last year. The gentleman tried to clamber through a tennis racket. I didn't really like him."
Oh my God.
And I thought that's a tougher gig.
A contortionist.
A contortionist clambering through a tennis racket.
Oh my God.
But yeah, that was one of the weirder gigs I've ever done.
That is crazy. Andrew would have liked a contortionist at a certain age. Thank you. I'm trying. Yeah, I'm trying.
That will go down very well.
It would.
In London, yeah.
Really?
Andrew jokes.
Yeah, that's a weird...
Andrew Schofield.
Andrew, that's a weird situation.
Yeah.
We don't need to get into that.
We don't want to get...
Wait, so what's Harry Styles like?
That's a weirder segue than what we had earlier.
A little weird, yeah.
Yeah, he's great. And not like Andrew at all.
When did you become friends with him, with Harry Styles?
When he... actually, one of the times that I met him in the early days was on that Royal Variety Show. I was hosting, and I came out dressed like him.
Yeah, in a onesie, sparkling onesie.
Yeah, with all the tattoos and a plunging neckline.
Yes,
but yeah, when he was in One Direction, I met him years ago when he was like a teenager, and he was really sweet. He used to come over to my house and play FIFA.
Harry would play FIFA at your house?
Yeah, he came over to my house and play FIFA.
Was he good?
Yeah, he was good. We used to play football
Just
together.
the two
as
of
well.
you?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's just a very down-to-earth,
Normal guy.
normal guy.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Do you find that, like, as you, because it's so surreal, like, talking to you, and again, thank you for doing this show. Like,
Thank
as
you
you
very
meet people, you just realize it's just a guy.
Just a
Just
guy.
a person. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes
Sometimes.
they're
Not Michael Whitehall.
Sometimes they're monsters. Yeah, Michael is a monster.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, he's a nice bloke.
So this is crazy. People don't know this, but you have a voice in Frozen,
Yeah, well,
and you were uncredited.
uncredited. I had a
How does that
line.
feel to be uncredited in like the biggest animated movie of the past decade?
Well, yeah, not ideal. I was so excited when I got cast in because I love Disney. You know, I mentioned Lion King. I'm a big like Disney nerd when I was
Yeah.
a kid. So when they asked me to do a voice in that, which was sort of like
Crazy.
publicity stunt thing, that they just wanted a famous like British person to
Yeah.
do one line in it so that I could help promote it in the UK. But then my line got cut, I think, from the international release and the DVD, and then so when I got a DVD of it and saw the actual footage, my voice, it wasn't my voice, it was someone else, and they'd cut
Who
my
was
one
it?
line.
Alan Rickman.
I don't know. They just got rid of it. They just
That's
got rid
horrible.
of the line. Yeah.
Were you excited and it was gone?
It's you know, it was a very sad time for me
Fuck.
to be in Frozen and tell everyone that you're going to be in Frozen and
Yeah.
then have a big climb down when you're then extricated from Frozen.
Inheritance wouldn't matter if you were in Frozen. I mean,
It
just pays for everything.
was just that was the meal ticket.
Ah.
What will I do? See, again, more trauma. We're discovering that there is more trauma and there is more of a struggle than we at first thought.
Did you experience any trauma when you were doing Clifford the Big Red Dog?
I did. I did. Because I had to work with these two puppeteers that they used to digitally replace Clifford. They had the sort of puppet
Oh
for
my
the
God.
CGI, and it looked like it was like a red skeleton. So it was like a sort of hellhound, and they operated bits of Clifford's body as well. So they
Oh
had
my
different
God.
parts of his anatomy and like his head on a spike, and then there was a pneumatic tongue.
That's not great.
No, it was quite disturbing.
That is really disturbing.
Acting
That
gross,
ruins Clifford entirely.
Yeah, I know.
Like a kid cannot see that.
Very disturbing. And we'd be like walking around the streets of New York as well with this like skeletal Clifford,
Oh my God.
which would give any child nightmares.
Fuck. Well, I'm glad I was not on that because that would freak me out. You have a new show with your dad. Can we
I
talk
do.
about this?
Yes, Fatherhood with My Father. It's kind of like the old show that I did with my dad, but it has a different title. And
And where can people find Fatherhood with My Father?
Fatherhood with My Father is on Netflix. There are 5 seasons of Travels with My Father, which was me traveling around the world with my father, Michael. Him, the sort of reluctant explorer, being taken to all manner of far-flung places and dragging his heels along the way and complaining about everything. And this is a sort of new incarnation of the show. I've had a baby recently, so I thought I'd look into all aspects of modern parenting and fatherhood and
Wow.
look to the future. And we looked into longevity and technology and how that's going to help fathers in the future, and all with my father at my side, sort of undermining me, being rude to the experts, sort of just generally picking apart proceedings and being a cantankerous presence wherever
Wow.
he is.
How is it working with your dad on this series as compared to other things?
He's got a lot older and a lot more cantankerous and a lot less like forgiving of the process. It's insane. It's so strange working with an 84-year-old man as well, because then when you go and work with someone else, you're just like, oh God, yeah, this is how people do it.
Yeah.
But you know, like the hours are amazing because we won't start till 10. We have to finish at 12:30 every day.
That's
And
unbelievable.
we have to have like a proper restaurant, sit-down meal
Amazing.
with wine every day. He has to have wine every day. And if that doesn't happen, then he won't work. And he might do an hour in the afternoon if it's been a good lunch.
Yes.
But like, so that, and then I can hide behind that as well.
Incredible schedule.
Yeah. I never have to look like a diva or like difficult. I just have to be like, yeah, but he's 84 and he's set in his ways. So
right.
we're going to have to just film for 2 hours.
Yeah. That's like the dream, isn't it?
It's the dream. It's amazing.
Are there any, when Jack Whitehall of today looks 20 years down the line, is there anything you haven't done that there's like a dream still that you have left to conquer?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to do sort of challenge myself a bit more as an actor and not just play sort of heightened versions of myself in broad comedies. It would be nice to
Drama?
I'd like to do drama. I'd like to do.
Should we do Challengers sequel? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Call
up Zendaya.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's not do the scene. Let's not do that one scene.
No, let's just do
it.
Scene, yeah.
All right.
We're sending our own audition.
Interesting. Yeah.
Luca.
Why
Guardian.
Is this where we tape it? Matt, why is there a bed in your podcast studio? I'm sorry.
Imagine if that is how the sequel came to be, is that he's there at like Cannes talking about it. He's like, well, I just got sent a tape out of the blue of Matt and Jack making out in some tennis whites. And they said, sequel?
I mean, it makes sense. You're with Roxy, I'm with Emily Ratajkowski, so in my imagination. But we're in a high place. I can pretend. Wait, so that's amazing. So drama.
Yeah.
Wow. I want to see Jack Whitehall, the dramatic actor. I think you would kill it. You're doing these things with your eyebrows. You're like a mysterious person. Like, yeah, you're going to do it. I think there's I think you have Jim Carrey in you.
I would, yeah. I mean, those are the careers that I love and I look to. Like those actors that are able to do that. It's great.
Do you ever feel like you're pigeonholed?
Definitely. Less so here. In America, I think, maybe just because I'm
It's a lot easier when no one knows who the fuck you are.
Exactly.
No, I'm kidding.
No, that's what I mean. It's like you're so much less established that it's easier to sort of come and go, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. In England, I find it
you're pigeonholed in England.
You're like, you pay toffs and idiots. And
mm-hmm.
That's what you'll do. Stay in your lane. And we don't like people leaving their lane.
You don't like people leaving their lane?
No.
In England, you need to stay in your lane.
You need to stay in your lane. No reinvention.
No reinvention? None whatsoever?
Nope. So be careful when you go to Leicester Square Theatre.
Okay.
You choose your lane and you will stay in it.
That's really good advice.
No.
Oh my God. Then how do you navigate that then? As you want to keep growing as an artist, if in England you have to stay in your own lane,
what keep coming over to America?
Oh, great!
Desperately begging it to accept me.
Yeah, that's the weird part about this because London to LA, I'm sorry, New York to London is like the same length as New York to LA, but LA to London is a nightmare.
Yeah, LA to London is.
How do you do that flight all the time?
It's a long one,
disaster.
Especially when you have a child.
Yeah.
I had a 1-year-old on the flight. That's not a lot of fun.
So are there any perks of being such a mega famous stand-up comedian?
I mean, yeah, you get some perks, I guess.
Care to reveal any?
Free tickets to the tennis.
Oh.
Someone's
to Wimbledon.
Been discovering.
To Wimbledon.
To Wimbledon, US Open.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. I like that. I like being able to go and see tennis.
Yeah.
Free.
That's nice. There's definitely
good.
better
Those
perks,
are good.
but that was a good answer.
Some clothes.
Say it again.
Clothes.
Clothes. Very good. Interesting. You're like, is this a podcast? What are we talking about right now? Like, we're getting into your comedy journey. We're talking about... Oh my God. Okay, I do have a couple other questions and we have 6 hours left, but we're going to be here until 9 p.m.
I'll keep working on some perks.
No, it's great. Yeah, I'm just curious.
It's the worst
question. What's the
worst
most interesting?
answer, sorry.
Because you are so famous, especially in England, and like, is there anything that is your favorite and least favorite part about fame?
I like eating out, and I like being able to go to nice restaurants.
Yes.
And sometimes that's quite nice to sort of be able to get into a nice restaurant.
Good answer.
I would say that would be a part that I abuse.
Yeah.
A fair amount.
Good.
Ring up, pretend to be my agent, put on a funny voice.
Yeah, exactly.
And then get a table somewhere good. I mean, I don't know, just people sort of coming up to you and being weird. Weird, strange interactions.
Yes. That's got to be a little weird.
Yeah. I had a guy came up to me once and said, "Here, mate, do you know who you look like? you look like a fat Jack Whitehall. I was like, that's pretty much as bad as it can get. You know,
How fat were you?
I wasn't. It's just like, you know, not.
Take Ozempic.
And again, I was just like, no, yeah. Oh, yeah, I do. I get that a lot.
Jack Whitehall.
Okay, Jack Whitehall.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that guy's an asshole.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
That was the producer of my podcast.
Yeah.
He actually asked
You said fat Jake Whitehall.
How did you quippy battle with Prince William? How did that begin?
Oh, well, that was at the Royal Variety show. I made a lot of jokes at his expense.
Yes.
Because I was at school with his wife, Kate Middleton, and I did a whole routine about how she was the one that got away and how annoyed my mum was that I'd never, you know, taken my shot when I had an opportunity and talked quite a lot about, I made a lot of jokes about his missus.
Yes.
And then afterwards he came up, he's like, you better, you know, he crunched my hand and told me to sort of back off.
Crunch my hand.
Yeah. And so I had a little bit of a sort of, I guess, some history and, you know, sent a few stray bullets in his direction.
Stray bullets.
And then, like years later, he was doing some charity appearance at a school and he was asked to come up with a joke and he was like, oh yeah, I think I'm going to try and channel Jack Whitehall because he does a lot of dad jokes, doesn't he? Just out of the blue.
Isn't that crazy? Like when you really step back and think about it, like the future of King of England wants to channel you.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to be insulted, I think being insulted for your comedy being lame by the future King of England is quite a feather in the cap.
Yeah. How do I handle Meghan Markle jokes in England?
Oh, you're fine. Go to town.
Go to town.
Yeah, you'll be absolutely.
Do you have any takes on Meghan Markle?
On Meghan Markle, did I have? I did a little bit of Meghan Markle material.
Yeah.
In my last special.
Yeah.
And I always ask the audience to try and get a sort of gauge of who was Team Meghan and who was Team Harry. And it was funny over the course of the tour, because it was about a year and a half, how it went from, in England in particular, like pretty much 50-50 to definitely not that split by the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. And if Meghan said, like, you know, I have this new health and wellness company and we're trying to do a comedy night and I want you to be the face of it, what do you do?
Are you doing that?
No, I was asking you, theoretically.
Oh.
I'm not
I thought this was another gig.
No, it's not.
I wouldn't put it past you.
Yeah, well, there's a price for everything, I guess.
Oh, yeah, I'd be in there like a shot.
Yeah. Well, no, do you have any advice, I guess, to just anyone who, like, wants to do this comedy? I know it's a pretty broad question, but because you've taken your career by, you know, in your own hands. You've been writing your own material. You create relentlessly.
Yeah. I don't know. I think probably the key is because it's definitely different. You know, we're probably a generation apart in terms of when we started out. And I think it's great that now, like, there's less of a sense of there being, like, gatekeepers of comedy and needing to be put on, you know, networks or television. And it's amazing that you can create stuff and put it online and then you can find an audience just like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing. But it's also good in tandem to, if you want to do stand-up in particular, make sure that you gig and you do as much stage time as you can, because that's the only way that you're ever going to be able to, like, improve as a comedian, is the more that you do it, the more that you, like, work those muscles.
Yeah.
And, you know, I only developed as a stand-up just through doing so many gigs and so many shows, and I was so bad for so long. But I think that's the key, is to make sure that you do that part of it as well and put in the work.
Fuck, that's great advice. Don't you love answering that question?
Yeah.
What's the advice?
What's the advice?
Any questions for me? No, I'm kidding. And by the way, because I do love British comedy. Were there any favorites you had growing up, specifically?
I mean, I loved Lee Evans. Have you seen Lee Evans perform ever? Talk about physicality. He's like, he's the guy. He was in, like, Something About Mary, and but he is an amazing physical comedian and is absolutely enormous in the UK. Again, like, probably not much of a profile over here, but, like, one of the biggest comedians in the UK, and he's amazing. He's so funny.
Lee Evans.
Yeah,
check out Lee Evans, kids.
Yeah.
That's what's going viral on TikTok
That's what's going
today.
viral on TikTok.
It's Lee Evans material on Snapchat Spotlight.
I want to see all of your regional accents when I come to see you in Leicester Square.
Please come. Yeah. I mean, if you're around, I'd love to have you. It'd be really cool. I'll put the spotlight on you and I'll ride in on a Segway and I'll say, I got inspired. I'll say, guys, I know you're not liking my show, but here he comes to save the day. That'd be really cool to see you there.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you like favorite American comedians these days? Sebastian, you know that guy?
Yeah, he's very funny.
Yeah.
Sebastian.
Yeah.
His
So this guy, Jack Whitehall, super funny dude. Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Who else is great? I'm just trying to think now because the ones that aren't cancelled.
Yeah, exactly. Who wants to talk about other comedians?
Yeah.
Let's not give them business.
No.
Yeah.
Shane Gillis, his
Shane
special
Gillis.
was really funny.
Yeah.
I really love that. And who else is Bill Burr. I love Bill Burr.
So funny.
Fucking hilarious.
Yeah. The crowd work too is just like the best.
Yeah. He is amazing. I saw him in London when he came and did the Royal Albert Hall. So he's one of my favorite comics.
So we're wrapping up here again. We have again 6 more hours, but 4.5. But because like objectively, you're a very good looking guy, and you're in comedy, right? And some is saying that I might not be too bad looking either. And do you think this is a weapon, Jack? Do you think this is a weapon on stage? Do you feel like it helps you to charm audiences, looking the way you do, as opposed to kind of a schlubby guy with a stained gray T-shirt going on stage?
I don't know. I think in
We look like we could be like partners at a hedge fund.
we really could. We're like hedge funds bros.
Yeah.
Looking for 2 guys in finance, 6'4".
Blue eyes.
Blue eyes.
Yeah.
In England, actually, maybe even more. And this is a good piece of advice.
Yeah.
So, well, I should have said this before. So the major difference, I think, with comedy in America and in England is in England, you have to go on, and especially if you're young and good looking like yourself, you need to go on and you need to self-deprecate, and you need to just try and somehow drag down your status and self-flagellate a bit before you start taking any pot shots at anyone else.
Should I say I'm Jack Whitehall's intern? That's what I look like?
Yeah. Because people don't, if you're too cocky.
Yeah, you can't be.
But in America, opposite. And I always used to make that mistake. When I came over here, I'd come on, and for the first 2 minutes, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm British, but I'm probably going to be shit here, and I'm actually not very good back home, and the jokes are going to be terrible, and I'm awful." And then I'd do it, and the people would be like, "Well, this guy has no confidence
that's weird.
at all."
To preface,
dying on his ass.
Yeah.
But you're so used to being in England, feeling the need to go on and do a little bit of that.
Yes.
So maybe
different culture.
So basically, my advice for the Leicester Square Theatre has been: you're not going to get anything from the audience.
This is fun.
And make sure you spend the first 5 minutes of the show, telling them how terrible you are.
Wow. Okay. No, this is really good advice.
It's really good advice.
No, it's
right?
great.
It's really sound.
As one of my favorite comedians out there, Jack Whitehall, I do really want your take on a very relevant subject in pop culture. I feel if anyone could dissect this humorously, you would be the man to do it. And I'm talking about Haktua.
Haktua.
And I would like to know what a Brit's take on Haktua is. Does it sound the same in England? Do people who are executing the act of this motion make that noise? Or is it like Haktua?
Haktua. The Haktua. I was at Glastonbury Music Festival.
Haktua.
The weekend of Haktua. Maybe it was 3 days after Haktua had gone right viral. And I remember being in a field. We were waiting for another band to come on in between sets, and someone started up a Haktua, and then it just spread across this field of people. And I was like, that is insane.
It is insane.
The cultural reach of a girl on a night out in Arizona making a joke about spitting on a cock.
Yeah.
There's a field in England where all of a sudden thousands of people are Haktuaing. It's incredible.
I was in the bathroom and I just was spitting. I was get some in my mouth, and I just started laughing. I'm like, he's like, spit on that thing, spit on that thing. Oh my god! Wow,
amazing.
We're nearly done. It's fun when the host says 8 times we're nearly done. Jack's publicist has a gun. She's looking at me.
I also haven't uncrossed my legs for the whole interview.
It's nice.
Yeah, but now I can't. I've committed to it, and I feel like it's a bit clammy in there.
I'm gonna. You think there's a sweat stain?
I think it could be a sweat stain. It's definitely going to be a bit creased, and I just don't. and the camera is also
Do you think
quite
we're going to see
precarious.
the outline of
angle.
your Whitehall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't feel comfortable uncrossing my legs until the interview ends.
No,
So
everything is great about this.
In a little, I also might be sort of cramping up because I've just been on a long haul flight.
Oh, yeah.
I've got some deep vein thrombosis.
No, oh, yeah.
Occurring.
What are your thoughts on Oasis getting back together?
Yeah, very excited about that. That was a big part of my youth, and so you asked me the question as well about, like, again, the perks of being famous. I did not get my Oasis tickets, but I'm holding out for the fact that I might be able to somehow get to see them next summer.
Yeah.
Through some kind of connection.
Yes.
That would be an advantage, I would say.
How would they not just get you a ticket? You're Jack Whitehall.
No. I've seen Noel out a few times. I love Noel Gallagher. He's like a hero of mine.
Uh-huh.
And he...
Slip and slide.
I think the last time I saw him, I was at something. Maybe it was like a gig or something, or somewhere where you might not expect to see me, somewhere that was maybe a little bit cool, a little bit edgy. And Noel Gallagher was like, "What's this posh cunt doing here?" And I was like, "Oh, okay.
This posh cunt."
Posh cunt. But again, like, insulted by the future king,
yeah,
called a posh cunt by Noel Gallagher.
Yeah, that's an unbelievable life.
Yeah.
Okay, couple political questions. Keir Starmer, thoughts?
Arsenal fan. I'm an Arsenal fan. I've seen him in a pub by the Emirates. So he gets my vote. I know that's not how you should necessarily vote on a politician, but
do you like as a comedian, do you feel any obligation or just the polar opposite in taking a political stance comedically?
Well, we sort of had a similar situation that you guys have had in your political cycle, whereby
Rishi Sunak is gone.
Well, Rishi Sunak wasn't an ideal sort of person to like use as a comedy fodder, but Boris was amazing.
Yes, amazing
for years. Yeah. And then Boris goes, and all of a sudden you got Keir Starmer, who's pretty boring and dull, and it's much better for, like, you know, actual life and politics and people. But as a comedian, you're a little bit starved. Yeah. But then you're like, that's not how you should go through life.
Oh yeah.
But then, what happens if Trump's gone?
A lot of material. You mean for me or in general? I mean, the thing is, it's funny. It's like Trump's not even the president now. I'm doing him. It's like I do. Well, this isn't about me, this episode, but I do a lot of like political people and actors, but now I'm kind of in this new phase where I'm like doing the hour of stand up and kind of like I've built a foundation in my career, and now it's like I'm doing this. I'm like doing other.
You've also got great because you got a very like broad palette of impressions. There was a very famous impressionist called Mike Yarwood in the UK, and he had an amazing impression. I think it was of Harold Macmillan, who was the Prime Minister before Margaret Thatcher, and then Margaret Thatcher came in, and he couldn't do Margaret Thatcher, and everyone said that was like...
And it was the end of it?
That was the end of Mike.
No, there was a guy named Von Meter in America, and he looked exactly like JFK. And he would go on Ed Sullivan, all these big shows, and he would do JFK. He sounded like him. He looked like him. JFK got shot, and then Lenny Bruce went on stage a couple of days after and said, Von Meter's fucked. And long story short, he was fucked, and his whole career ended. Yeah.
So I guess the good news is we have a few more tricks up our sleeves, right, Jay?
Can you do an impression of any comedians?
I don't know whether I could do... I mean... Do I have any comedians? No, I don't know.
I'll do an impression of you uncrossing your legs. Oh my God, it's quite nipply. It's a tidbit nipply. Well, anyways.
Great on impressions.
Say it again.
I'm not great on impressions.
Fantastic.
I used to sort of try and do Andy Murray.
No, you were yourself. Say it again.
I used to try and do Andy Murray.
You did Andy Murray?
I used to try and do Andy Murray.
How did that go?
Great. Yeah, it was a really, really exciting match. Oh, it was great. And it was nice to have Judy there as well to watch me.
Andy, it's Roger Federer here. I'm just happy to be with you.
No, it's great. I'm a huge admirer of your tennis, and it was wonderful to be out there on the court. Maybe that's the Challenger sequel, is me as Andy Murray and you as Roger Federer.
I think it'd be great. I'm happy that you won the title at Wimbledon a couple of times.
Just the twice, but no, it's great. It's been wonderful to be.
Are you enjoying your retirement, Andy Murray?
Yeah. That's nice. And I never really liked tennis anyway.
Maybe you should come to Switzerland. We can have a blast.
I don't think I'd like to come to Switzerland.
It's so
I like
good.
to stay in Scotland.
Okay. That was amazing. Job well done.
No, I did it.
We're almost done. I have one final question, which is in your special, one of your recent specials, there's the yearbook
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
right? And remind us what happened with this bit.
Wait, the year as
Did
in
you have a bit with like a yearbook where like you didn't, something was weird with it?
when they were writing about me in this
This
it
is
the
not
bit
a good
about-
setup. This is a terrible question.
And I've forgotten what it is. It's not the bit about when my school
I'll
gets
ask you
written
off
about
camera.
in the newspapers.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yes.
Yeah. It's fucking hilarious though.
Yeah, that's true. But that's changed a bit because there was another story recently and I did get name checked. That was
fuck.
that whenever my school gets written about,
Yeah.
in glowing terms, they always mention Kate Middleton went there, Robert Pattinson went there. It's their school, and I'm
Yes.
never mentioned.
You're never mentioned.
until
Yes.
Ghislaine Maxwell got arrested for sex trafficking, and she'd also been at the school, and all
And
of
then-
a sudden it was the school of Jack Whitehall, and I was like, "What? Why is it now my school? Where's Middleton and
Oh my
Pattinson
God.
now?"
And Philip Schofield broke the story, actually. Oh my God. Well, Jack, I got to tell you, I'm so honored and so excited
I'm
you came
so
on.
honored.
You are so funny, brilliant, and I'm just grateful you took the time. Thank you so much
I'm
for
a
doing
huge
this.
fan of yours, and I've been like an OG fan as well. I've been following you for a while, and it's so excited to see you blow up, and it's an honor to come on to Friend in High Places. And we'll finish this interview, and I shall uncross my legs.
Uncross your legs. And where should people follow you, Jack?
They can follow me anywhere.
Yeah. Follow him down the street,
on the
and
street.
to his hotel. No,
Yeah.
Instagram.
Instagram. I believe I have a TikTok.
And the handle is Jack Whitehall.
At Jack Whitehall. At
All
Jack
right.
Whitehall, yeah.
Everybody, this was amazing. It's Jack Whitehall.
Thank you.
Dibble, 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 do.
Thank you
Good
so
night.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. Just, yes, thank you. We did it.